Good morning, respected session chair, esteemed delegates, and fellow researchers. I am Dr. Nitin Kumar Pithuria, lecturer in English from Dr. Jivraj and Mehta Government Polytechnic, Amreli, Gujarat. I am pleased to present my research paper titled From Tradition to Transformation, Integrating Indian Knowledge System and NEP 2020 for Contemporary Education. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Context and rationale. India's education system is currently undergoing a historic transformation with the implementation of the National Education Policy 2020. NEP 2020 envisions a holistic, multidisciplinary, and value-oriented education system that is globally competitive yet culturally rooted. Understanding Indian knowledge systems. Within this framework, Indian knowledge systems or IKS assume renewed importance. IKS include plural and dynamic traditions like classical philosophical traditions, indigenous ecological practices, dialogic pedagogies, and applied knowledge systems that have evolved over centuries. My paper examines how IKS and NEP 2020 intersect and how this convergence can meaningfully reshape higher education in India, not symbolically but structurally and pedagogically. Theoretical foundation of IKS. Indian knowledge systems are not monolithic. They represent a plurality of epistemologies. For instance, the Nyaya tradition provides a rigorous framework of knowledge through perception, inference, comparison, and testimony, offering strong foundation for critical reasoning and research methodology. The Upanishadic pedagogical model foreground dialogue, questioning, and self-reflection, aligning closely with student-centered and inquiry-based learning advocated in contemporary pedagogy. Ayurveda and indigenous ecological knowledge emphasize balance between body, environment, and ethics, making them particularly relevant for sustainability education and environmental humanities. Finally, applied traditions such as the Arthashastra demonstrate that IKS is deeply connected to governance, economics, and ethical leadership, challenging the misconception that indigenous knowledge is purely spiritual or abstract. NEP 2020 as an enabling framework. NEP 2020 provides the policy architecture necessary for integrating IKS meaningfully. It emphasizes on multidisciplinarity education, flexible curricula, and the academic bank of credits resonates strongly with the integrative nature of Indian knowledge traditions. The policy focuses on Indian language and multilingual education is particularly significant as much of IKS is embedded in Sanskrit or regional languages. Further, NEP 2020 stresses experiential learning, vocational education, teacher training, and ethics, all of which align organically with indigenous pedagogical models. Thus, NEP 2020 does not merely accommodate IKS, it actively creates space for its revival and transformation within modern academia. Pedagogical and institutional challenges. However, integration is not without challenges. Faculty preparedness remains a major concern as most teachers are trained within Western disciplinary frameworks. Assessment systems are still largely exam-centric, making it difficult to evaluate experiential and dialogic learning. There are also ethical concerns, particularly regarding the appropriation of community-based and indigenous knowledge without adequate recognition or reciprocity. If IKS integration is poorly designed, it risks becoming tokenistic or ideologically driven rather than academically rigorous. A model for integrating IKS in higher education. To address these concerns, my paper proposes a critical and research-driven integration model. This includes embedding IKS within existing disciplines rather than as isolated courses, adopting dialogic and experiential pedagogies, strengthening multilingual instruction and translation initiatives, building ethical partnerships with indigenous communities, reforming assessment through portfolios, projects, and reflective evaluation, supporting interdisciplinary IKS research through institutional frameworks. Such an approach ensures epistemic pluralism, academic rigor, and inclusivity. Conclusion and way forward. To conclude, the integration of Indian knowledge systems within NEP 2020 represents not just curriculum reform, but a civilizational reimagining of education. When approached critically and ethically, IKS can cultivate learners who are intellectually rigorous, culturally grounded, environmentally conscious, and ethically responsible. This alignment has the potential to shape an education system that is truly Indian in spirit and global in vision. Thank you for your time and attention. I look forward to your questions and reflections. Thank you very much.
So the next presenter was Dr. Nitin Kumar V. Pithadia, who presented his paper on From Tradition to Transformation, Integrating Indian Knowledge Systems and NEP 2020 for Contemporary Education. So where he presents a well-researched and conceptually rich discussion of NEP 2020 as a significant moment in India's higher education reform. And the paper also situates the policy within a longer civilizational and intellectual tradition. And the paper is also replete with scholarly reflections, which strengthens the comparative lens and demonstrates the author's engagement with the educational philosophy, policy studies, and Indian knowledge systems. So the discussion on multidisciplinary education and ethical grounding and learner-centric reforms is also clearly articulated and aligned with the stated objectives of NEP 2020. And the paper also acknowledges certain limitations and challenges associated with the implementation of NEP 2020, and particularly with its discussion of faculty preparedness, resource disparities, institutional readiness, and the risk of narrow or ideological interpretations of Indic priorities. So these concerns indicate an awareness that the policy's vision faces practical and structural constraints on the ground, and while at the same time the further scope of the paper could delve more into the focus of contemporary applicability, and particularly in terms of how these philosophical frameworks translate into classroom practices and institutional realities today. And a greater attention to the practical challenges of implementation, regional diversity, and faculty preparedness could further probably balance the largely conceptual approach which has been delved into this paper. But overall, the paper offers a thoughtful and informed contribution while indicating a clear scope for further empirical and pedagogical exploration. So now with this, I would like to congratulate Dr. Nitin Kumar for this wonderfully written paper, and I wish you well for further ventures as well. Thank you.